Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great start to the day and enjoying this Visit KAMK event. I'm here in the esports room, joined by one of our international business students. My name is George Townsend from the esports business degree here at KAMK, and I'm just going to be asking some questions here today. So, to start us off, just would you like to introduce yourself to the crowd? Tell us a bit about yourself and your life at KAMK.
Hello everyone, my name is Ilias Avgeropoulos. I'm a full degree student here at KAMK, specifically international business. And I'm from Greece, so it is very nice to meet you, first of all.
You too.
So, yeah,
Yeah. So first things first, would you like to just tell us a bit about your studies, the international business degree, how you're finding it, maybe what you're studying?
definitely. So, first of all, I'll start by saying that international business is a fantastic overall degree. Now, it is under the category of business administration overall, as the degree that you attain, alongside esports business. Now, specifically for my studies, what I go over is I attain a better understanding in regards to the marketing as well as the brand development of specific companies. Now, that can include overall analysis of the marketing of a company, that can include the brand development, for example, how the brand and the consumer are connected, and how the beautiful relationship can eventually bloom to a point of monetary profits. So, yes, pretty
No,
much.
yeah, sounds very interesting. Obviously. Next, do you mind telling me a bit more about the practical aspect? Of course, you mentioned about the theory and what you're studying, but
Yes, of
anything
course.
sort of behind the scenes that goes on, more the actual nitty gritty of it,
Of
the
course.
work you get into.
So I'll take it year by year, okay? And overall, what I've done within the courses. So to begin with, during the first year, when I first started my studies, you were already pretty much accustomed to the concept of developing a brand or assisting companies to begin with. An evident example of that was the Pure Protein project, where we assisted a local company producing protein bars to develop and promote, in regards to marketing, more like specifically, to Singapore. It was a fantastic project. Unfortunately, we did not get to fully develop it due to COVID. However, KAMK and the teachers that were making sure that we attained the most out of it provided us with the necessary knowledge and experience to perhaps implement this again in the near future if it was to, well, happen again. Now, I can also mention a bit more of recent collaborations that we've done. For example, we have assisted Neste, the local gas company here in Kajani, as well as Finland, to overall attain a better understanding in regards to the customer journey that their consumer base is experiencing, from how they can find their local stations to how they can go on the website and attain more information about the establishment itself, as well as the businesses available within the establishment, and of course how they can leave feedback for the station.
Yeah.
Was the good experience? Was the bad experience? The very basic stuff.
Sure.
Of course, how can I not forget about Carolinberg, which is a rather local attraction here in Kajani. We assisted in the development as well as promotion of this establishment in and out, an outside market. How they could attract tourists, essentially, how to get them to be interested in visiting Kajani and those establishments. That, of course, also allowed us to attain more of a perspective as to how we can coordinate local service providers with that specific establishment. And the most recent example is um, our collaboration with the Trace heating company, wishing to move to an external market, to specifically go to Sweden. Still working on that, still getting there. We're doing our best. And even more of a recent example, as you can see, the KAMK.gg, which I am fully utilizing my experience and knowledge which I have absorbed throughout my degree. Now, KAMK.gg is esports organization. However, that does not stop me, an international business student, from participating and utilizing my experience and my knowledge in, well, attaining the necessary results.
And I think that is an important point to touch on, that the international business degree and the esports business degree do have a lot of crossover with each other. Especially in
Definitely.
the first year, you have some of your lectures and your classes with people from other degrees. You do a lot
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
events together, and obviously being both business degrees, it's very easy to collaborate with each other on different projects, different events that are going around both within the school and out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, in the beginning, like you said, we were indeed collaborating in many of the courses, accounting, academic English. However, after a certain period of our studies, you get more into specifics. You get into the actual basis of what you're supposed to be doing, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's what you came here for, essentially.
Obviously. Great.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of important work going on behind the scenes. I think one thing you touched on that I would like to ask about is you talked about the relationship with the teachers and sort of how that went on in the classes. Would you like to maybe explain a bit more, maybe what your teachers are like, sort of how that relationship works in the classroom?
Definitely. You see, around KAMK, the teachers are not only just teachers, they're your friends, they're there to support you throughout your endeavors. If you have an issue, you can easily go up to them and ask them, hey, here's the thing, I am having rather quite troublesome time in this project, or here's the thing, I am having a few issues in my real, in my life. The thing is, you're developing connections, you're networking, you're becoming friends with the teachers in one way, in a weird way even, but that is the lovely aspect of this. You are an international business degree student, yes, but that also means that you're networking, you are attaining a better understanding in what you're going to be encountering in your life, and this is exactly one of the things you're going to be encountering in your life. You're going to create friendships, relationships, partnerships with so many people, regardless of the age, regardless of your position within an organization, whatnot.
Yeah,
So,
no, I agree. And obviously for some people, especially for me, that might be a bit of a shock because I know that a lot of teaching systems around the world, especially ones that I grew up in, there's sort of this idea that you have to have respect for your elders and, you have to have this level of seniority to be a teacher. Whereas here there's a lot more of a sort of friendly, collaborative feel about the way that you interact with your teachers.
Exactly,
They're there for you whenever you need them. They're very friendly, they're very kind, they're very welcoming. And you never really have to stress too much about anything you say or do around them. Next. Would you mind telling us about what it's like studying in English? Because obviously this is an international degree. Some people maybe have different levels of English than others. Some people might struggle more than others.
Yes, I understand. I'm going to say this. I love studying in English. Now, I am from Greece, like I said, okay? My level of English, before I came here, was mediocre at best. Yes, I had a bit of knowledge in regards to, some vocabulary, I knew how to talk, I knew how to understand. However, when you're not studying in English, you do not possess the same, I don't know how to describe it, different accents, okay? You're going to be having evident issues over those accents. You're not going to be able to understand them. You're not going to be able to, instantly communicate your ideas as efficiently as possible. Yeah. However, there's this adjustment period, 1 month, 2 months, it doesn't matter how long it takes. You're getting used to this to the degree where your vocabulary is blooming. You're attaining more experience, you're speaking more English, you're getting across, you're getting your points across more efficiently in short term, and the person that you're talking to understands you much more efficiently. Yeah. So if I were to pretty much provide you a too long to read sort of notion to this, it's fantastic. Yeah. It's exciting.
I agree, and it's definitely very interesting. Even, like you said, if it's harder to communicate with some people at first, that is something that you have to learn to do. Because obviously in the real world, you're going to have instances where maybe you're working within a business, maybe you're working with certain clients, and those people aren't going to have the same level as English. Maybe you have a worse level of English than they do. And it's important to learn to work with that and to actually be able to function around it.
Definitely.
Next. Yeah, so we'll talk a bit more about actual language skills, because when you come to camp, obviously first you talked about that English barrier.
Yes.
But at the same time going on, you've got the Finnish classes, the Finnish for beginners courses that you have to learn.
Yes.
And at the same time, there's a lot of different options that people have to study languages at the university, talking about, paired, where you can maybe teach somebody a language, learn a language from somebody else, things like that. Maybe explain your experience with that, or maybe what you know about it.
So as I said, there's this adjustment period of, you getting used to speaking English. Okay, but let's put that aside. So throughout your studies, you are evidently introduced to the concept of Finns for foreigners. Now, for international business degree students, you are required to attend Finns for foreigners 1, 2, and 3. Now, of course, you can continue your studies in a much more specific sort of approach. However, it is also important to say that in addition to the studies of marketing, accounting fundamentals, and management, brand development, and so on, so on, so on, you have this quite enormous range of free choice studies. And just like George said, you are enabled to pretty much attain much more knowledge and experience over those. If you want to learn Spanish, feel free to do so. If you want to learn German, feel free to do so. There is a huge range of languages available at your reach.
Yeah.
You just apply for it, and that's it. You attend the course and you become a master of the language. Well, not really a master, but you get there. You're getting there. You need to put in the work. You need to you need to be able to want it to achieve it, if that makes sense.
And at the same time, there are certain courses that you may feel you don't necessarily need to do. So for some people, if they aren't Finnish natives, but they are fluent in Finnish, or they know Finnish to a very high standard, you obviously won't be forced to take the Finnish for Foreigners course. You can switch that for Swedish, you can take another course, you can get those courses accredited. For example, with me, the academic English course, being a native English speaker, it was something that I didn't need to do, obviously. So there's a very simple accreditation process where you just get that done, move on with your studies, and you can always replace that with another language, which I would recommend because having as many languages as possible in your bank is very, very useful for the future.
To add to what you just said in regards to, replacing certain courses, and I would like to add, say that you're doing the very same path as I'm doing, okay? Say that you're an international business degree student and you have a heavy background. Well, not exactly heavy, let's say an interest in esports, okay? Now, the fact that you possess this interest in esports means that you can also expand your education to perhaps a different path. Say you're starting as an international business degree student and you want to include within your studies a few esports studies, you can easily do that. It's what I did. So, to add to that, thank you for letting me mention that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's all the questions we actually had for you today. So thank you for joining me on the couch.
Well, thank
it was nice
you
to meet
for
you
having
and great
me.
to talk to you.
Likewise.
Yeah, and thank you all for coming and watching, listening to us talk about the degree. Coming up next, we will also have a talk with one of the esports business students, if you want to stick around for that. If not, there's plenty going on around campus and for you to watch online. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for watching.